Nana Lena was very fair skinned, and colorism was a big thing, you know, and she didn't like the fact that we had black knees and elbows. Nana Lena used to scrub our knees and elbows with like industrial cleaner and Frillo.
No.
I guess she said
Leslie, no,
no
that's
grandchildren of
That is
hers
not true.
are gonna have
That is
black.
That is not true.
Wow, I shouldn't say that. We were abused. We would leave bath time all scratched up and scraped up. Hey, Ange.
Hey, Reserie. How's it going?
With music in your voice. It's going well.
Yes, I'm working on a musical, which we'll talk about at another time. So
yes,
I have what we call earworms. Just the songs just play in our heads all the time. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm looking at myself in the mirror in the glass here, and you'll be proud of me because I left my aligners in. I'm trying to be a little bit more compliant with my treatment. So if I'm slurring my words and can't say L, it's not the vodka that's sitting right here. It's the aligners.
Is that what we're telling people now? Is that what we're telling people? Welcome to Black Boomer Besties from Brooklyn. We are Angela, me, and that's Leslie.
Me.
My bestie of almost 50 years. We are 60-something-year-old women, and we created this podcast to invite all of you to think deeply and act boldly. If you are an inquisitive older woman, or if you love one, or if you want to become one, we invite you to sit with us, learn a little something, laugh a lot, and enjoy the show.
So what I'd like you to do is hit like and subscribe, and also tell your friends about us, because if you hit notifications, you'll be alerted as to when we leave new content. And I think that you'll like that you did. So Take a second, press that button.
Do it now. Do it now. Okay,
do it.
Today we're going to be talking about colorism in the Black community. And it's so interesting how this came about. Leslie and I recently recorded an episode talking about our grandparents. And we'll put a little snippet in this recording, because after we recorded a short segment for our Patreon viewers. And in that, Leslie talked about an experience that she had with her grandmother, a part of the legacy that we do not want to continue around colorism and some of what her grandmother did. So her great grandmother did. So we're gonna put that piece in here.
Nana Lena was very fair skinned, and colorism was a big thing, you know, and she didn't like the fact that we had black knees and elbows.
Oh, no.
Nana Lena used to scrub our knees and elbows with like industrial cleaner and Frillo.
No.
I guess she said
Leslie,
no grandchildren of hers are gonna have black.
That is not true.
Wow, I shouldn't say that. We were abused. We would leave bath time all scratched up and scraped up.
So what you saw from that is how colorism came into Leslie's experience. So me with my producer hat, literally my producer hat, I thought about us talking about that more, how we experience some things based on our complexion. And then, so one of the videos that I saw that we wanted to kind of reference in this conversation is Jubilee. light skin and dark skin middle ground. So we'll listen to that video, and there are a few things that we wanted to kind of just focus in on, because it was a long video, and it was a group of younger folks talking, but there were definitely some things that linked to what Leslie and I wanted to talk about today.
Mm-hmm.
One of those things is whether colorism is defined as darker skinned people being treated less than. If that is the definition of colorism,
Mm-hmm.
or is it more broadly how our complexion plays a role in how we experience being Black?
Mm-hmm.
So one being
Mm-hmm.
it's a dark skin experience, and one is more broadly, is it the experience of
Any
different
hue.
any
Mm-hmm.
hue in right? And so we're going to talk about that. That's really interesting because there's going to be a spin on that. The other thing is about privilege and how privilege shows up in based on your complexion.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to talk about some of our experience as light-skinned Black women, that for me, the things that come to mind are negative, some negative experiences that I've had living with this skin tone in the Black community. So those are the topics that we're going to have. So stick around because it's going to get kind of deep. It's going to get kind of deep. So the first one on the definition of colorism, you know, I'm a deep thinker. I don't stay on the surface. So I'm like, is the fact that Leslie and I are having a conversation around colorism, is it analogous to white people having a conversation around racism, right? Are we kind of the objects of the discriminatory practices when we talk about colorism, or are we not? And is it even okay? And we'd love to get your opinion on this. Please comment.
Sure.
Is it okay that Leslie and I talk about colorism as if we're the ones who actually are feeling the negative effects of colorism? Leslie, what do you think about that?
And as an American Black woman, you know, and I've been described as red bone, light skinned, you know, et cetera.
Light skinned and light skinned.
Light, yeah. You know, I absolutely have some ideas about it. I mean, I know that I've benefited in many ways of being more lighter than some of my darker friends. And there are three siblings, three of us, and two of us, and my sister is pretty fair skinned. She's actually lighter than I am. And my brother, on the other hand, is darker skinned. And you don't need to live very long in this country to see how people who are darker, the perception and the way that people look at you, think about you, have preconceived ideas about you. And it goes everywhere from intelligence to abilities to criminality, to stereotypes, you know, all of those things. I am 100% sure that I've benefited in some ways, even within my community, from having the complexion that I have.
Les, I just want to stick a pin there for a moment, because I first want you to give me your opinion on the definition of colorism, whether you think it is it is defined as a darker skinned Black person's discriminatory practices against a darker skinned Black person, or is it more broadly the fact that there are these designations within our community about color and how that shows up in terms of privilege. So first, what do you think about definition wise?
It's
What
funny.
is
I think it's
colorism?
yes and. I think it's actually
Okay.
both of those
Oh
things.
God, make it
And
complicated.
no, but I also think that it depends on who's asking the questions.
I'm asking the
You
question,
know,
damn it. I'm
a
asking.
light-skinned black woman.
Yes, I'm asking the damn question.
So I think it's both. It really, I
Okay.
think it covers.
All right, tell me.
And it's
Okay.
one of these nebulous things that we might not be able to explain or define specifically. But again, I think it can be both things, because if if there are black people speaking about colorism, very often it is a matter of tone. What tone
Right.
is she, and
Right.
how is she treated based on her particular complexion? But then if we're
Right.
talking about in a larger community where there's mixed races, or white versus black people,
Right.
then in many cases we're all lumped as one. So,
Yes.
there's that racism comes in. It's any people of,
But then that's
of
racism.
melanated people.
But that's racism. Is that colorism? Does colorism show up? Does colorism show up in a negative way for... No, that's not the question I want to ask. What I want to ask is...
See, right. It's even hard, like, defining the question.
Well, I guess the question
What are you
is,
thinking?
well, one of the ways that that we can use racism to frame a lot of other things that we talk about, because racism tends to be something that we know kind of well, right? Or we
Sure,
have some strong
sure.
opinions
It's pretty
on,
well
right?
defined.
Correct. So let me try to line it up in terms of how we think about racism. So if we think about racism and we say, for example, all lives matter, right? Okay, just think about how that hit you.
Yes.
All lives matter, right? And then you think about colorism and you say, we're all black people. Is
Very
that
much the same thing.
Exactly.
Very much the same thing.
Exactly.
Yes.
And so if that is so,
If that's your position, then I tell you that you don't have a clear understanding of the role and colorism in general. If you say, well, we're all black people, so all of our tones, then you miss. And I started to say the subtleties, how melanated you are presents. But you know what?
Yes.
It's not even subtle.
yes, exactly.
It's not a subtlety. So that's a really good analogy, actually.
Thank
It's
you.
like,
Thank you. Thank you very much.
You hit that. But I don't
So
know.
now we
Did
can
I
talk
define
about
it?
Well, I guess what I wanted to acknowledge right up front is that you and I may be in a position of talking about something that we really don't know a lot about, because our experience, although we have experience, and you started talking about some of the privilege, and I'll be talking about, and maybe you too, some of the negative experiences that our complexion has brought into our lives, that we don't have experiences that would really identify colorism, because we have not lived in a darker skinned body.
However, but colorism presents no matter what hue you are. If one could say that we benefit from having a fairer complexion, that's
Yeah.
still colorism, because we're comparing it to someone who
I
is
see
of darker
that.
skin.
I see
So,
that. I see
whereas, so the very fact that we have a different experience than a
Yes.
darker complected brother,
Yes.
then that's a presentation of colorism.
It is, but that the ism that we put on words, it is the connotation is negative. So if our experiences
We're all positive, let's say. Is that what you're getting to? Are you saying that if we've only benefited from looking like we do?
Yeah.
then we perhaps have not had the full range of experience of colorism.
We absolutely have not. Not that we absolutely, and what I want to kind of acknowledge is should we be the people talking about colorism? Almost like, how dare we talk about
that reminds me of when they have the Youth Radiant night cream for and the model is 22. Right. Wrinkle reducing.
Exactly.
Like, what? But
exactly.
You're right about it. It's a provocative conversation.
Right.
However, and it's not to say that people are not speaking about it, though. There's not a lot of talk because it's almost like using your inside voice for respectability politics. You and I can easily have this conversation, and we have over the years, over 50 years, of course we have.
Right.
But it's not something that outside of the community is talked about very often. I just want to bring a little bit of historical context because this is what brought up the made us talk about it when we were speaking about Nana Lena. Trying to literally Brillo the dark off of our elbows and knees. And here we're talking about a very fair-skinned woman who had a very brown-skinned daughter. Nana Ruby was brown-skinned. Nana Margaret was fairer than I am. And she, having been born in the early 1900s, knew the differences and the difference in behaviors and treatments and what have you of living in a lighter body than even her own daughter.
Right.
An interesting point about Nana Lena, and then we'll move back to the topic, is that Nana Lena had at least 2 or 3 siblings. And from the stories that I've heard, at least one of her or 2 of her siblings have decided to live in a world that's passing.
Wow.
And hence they were rather estranged from her because she did not choose to pass as a white person.
Wow.
But I understand why someone would.
Sure.
I understand where that comes from.
Right.
It's and you wonder, have we really evolved very much? Before I sat down to this podcast, I had on my do-rag, smoothing down my edges, even though I have natural hair, I still wanted to present myself in a way that, I just thought about that. But
taming thing.
Tame it. You can look natural, but not too natural. Don't look too wild. It's like,
wow. That's so
you still gotta look like you have that good hair as we, grew up to want. There's a whole line of beauty products giving us the look of good hair. And then, because mom is who she is, we grew up as like good hair is hair that you have and that the good Lord gave you. Whatever the
good
texture
hair is having it.
Is having it, So, but let's get back. I started going on a tangent,
no, that's
just thinking
fine.
about the Brillo on my knees.
Oh, wait. So that was a meander? That was a tributary. Okay, another one. That's probably 5 to my 100. Let's come back because you were starting to talk about privilege and you and your siblings and so on.
But I certainly have experienced privilege based on my tone. We all know I can get in an elevator.
Yeah.
And on another floor, another woman would come in with a different presentation, dark or very dark or brown skin or whatever. And I think the tone of the elevator changes depending on who is in there.
Sure.
And stereotypes and things like that, People don't know that my black job, I'm a doctor, but so could my darker skinned sister,
Right. Exactly.
I love that, or my black job. Thank you.
or the whole black mixed with what, that if you if there's something attractive about your blackness, it must be because you're mixed with
You're
something.
mixed with something,
So it's
yeah.
kind of
Like
like
where,
black.
and people will say, like, where are you from? Or,
Right,
not me
right,
necessarily, but look what's going on with Kamala. I mean,
right,
that's a
right.
whole other thing,
Yeah,
It's like,
yeah. It's
yeah.
funny. So we're gonna have an episode soon talking about our dreadlocks, and because I used to have locks also,
Mm-hmm.
and what I'll mention now is that one of my reasons for starting my locks is because I wanted it to not be ambiguous as to who I was. I
Mm-hmm.
remember when I came back from a 4 month stay in Mexico,
Mm-hmm.
and I just there was I don't know whether there were new people at the office or what, but I I had a feeling like people were kind of, ooh, who's she, or what is she, or that type of thing. And I was like, listen, let's not have any any ambiguity.
Let
I'm
me
a
be
black woman.
clear.
Let me just make
Let
it.
me
Let me
be
show you
clear.
what my hair can do.
Right. Yeah,
Let me
yeah.
show you what my black
Especially
hair
being
can
in Mexico
do.
City. I mean, you could be,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
Well,
that makes sense.
that was when I came back
I
actually.
understand, but I'm saying
Yeah.
I could see where they're wondering, like, is she
Yes.
Mayan? Is you mixed with
Yes.
what? Are you,
Something.
yeah.
Something. But anyway, so I know we don't have time for a long episode today, but I wanted to mention, if if this is the right time, I wanted to mention about some experiences I had growing up in
Mm-hmm.
Jamaica, and in my kind of family, as it relates to
Mm.
my color. So I I grew up feeling like I was I was responsible for attraction from men because of my color.
Mm.
Like it was because of me. It was a lot, songs that I heard that were sung, folk songs, whatever. When I grew up in Jamaica, almost blamed Bright Eye Girl or Rediba or
Mm.
whatever for leading men astray.
Mm. Unwanted
Right, for luring men.
attraction. Mm-hmm.
And so as a child, I always felt this pressure
Ooh.
of, kind of toning myself down, if you will, no pun
Mm-hmm.
intended,
Sure.
and being careful about, and I remember things like when I sat down, it was so like, if I didn't cross my legs, as a kid, if I didn't,
Yeah, yeah,
then
you
it's like,
had to remember. It's like, oh,
right, it
I,
was just kind of
wow,
this
sure.
crazy, and I, and so I felt pressure
Mm-hmm.
to care about men. Like I had to take on the responsibility of them not
Wow.
losing
Mm-hmm.
control
Mm-hmm.
because of 5-year-old me.
Yeah. Wow. And you learned that early on.
I
I
learned that
mean,
early on. I
yeah,
learned that, and I think a
yeah.
part of that is still in me in some of what you and I have talked about through the years. I don't know if I've actually said it so clearly to you where some of that
Mm-hmm.
may be rooted,
Yeah.
but there are just some ways that I don't refer to myself.
Right.
I don't ever refer to myself as sexy. I don't ever feel the need to, but I think some of that comes from this way that I've learned that what's more important, and it may be true. I'm not saying to be smart, to be, well educated, to be kind of
Yeah. Yeah.
classy. Those are the things to be, not sexy. Sexy is negative. Sexy
And I
is,
certainly understand, you making the association between
yeah,
your color
yeah,
and physical attractiveness.
yeah,
And here it is, I'm sure in Jamaica it's the same how it
yeah.
is. I know that I got more attention than other people would have,
Mm-hmm.
let's say if I
Mm-hmm.
then because of my color.
Right.
you know,
Right.
um, Obviously in America, we are taught that white is the
Mm-hmm.
standard of
Same in
beauty, and
Jamaica
the
too.
closer you are to it,
Mm-hmm.
the more beautiful you're perceived to be. And then
Yeah.
when you get that feedback from people who are attracted to you,
Mm-hmm.
it really sets up this dynamic
Right.
because then when women are by themselves, they start comparing themselves to each
Mm-hmm.
other in
Mm-hmm.
terms of,
Mm-hmm.
well, I may be more attractive. I mean, obviously, if I'm lighter skinned, that just means I have a little closer mixture.
Right.
I was
Right.
closer to being mixed, than perhaps that person was,
Yeah.
and that's
Yeah.
all it means, really.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
society gives us this kind of feedback of
Yeah.
a hierarchy. And
Yeah.
then we perpetuate it.
Yeah. Yeah.
We perpetuate it. And
Yeah.
media and television and entertainment, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. The other thing that I remember about my
Wow,
childhood
that's
as it relates,
insightful.
yeah, as it relates to my color is that um, I, and I'm going to say it this way because I think this is my truth. I was made to feel. Whoops, sorry, that's instant karma. Um, I was made to feel that um, if people were wanted to be my friend, it was because of my color. It wasn't because I was funny
Wow.
or smart or don't you know that that's the only reason why they only want to be with you because
It's
um
funny that you put it that way because
mhm,
if I were to think about that also, I too grew up not necessarily having heard that,
right.
but always wondering if a person is attracted to me because of that. Oh, he
Mm,
only wants you because you're light skinned and
mm.
he didn't choose
Like
this
you come with
person
some like you come with
because
some currency.
I come with some currency.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Huh. I've
Definitely.
never, yeah, but I remember
Definitely
that.
that. Yeah.
Sure. And then you
Definitely that.
wonder, it's like, if a person were wealthy, is he
Mhm.
really with me because of my
Mhm.
money or because he
Yeah.
really likes me?
Yeah. Yeah. It's all where you fit on the privilege scale, right?
Wow.
So I remember that, and the other thing that's related to that is I I felt like I had to be really smart because um, I didn't always feel smart. I didn't always feel smart, and I felt like I had to be smart because I didn't want people to think that that is the only reason why I got whatever I got is because of my color. I
Wow.
had to,
Oh
I
my
had
goodness.
to, you
Yeah.
know, I had to be interested in my education. I needed to just push myself because otherwise people would only think this of you that you're only and you needed to show them that there was something that you were
More to
bringing to the
you.
table. And this is like young. This is in my
Wow,
youth.
what a
These are things
burden.
that I yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, yeah. So this kind of goes back to the
It
colorism thing,
reminds
and
me
we're
of the dumb blonde analogy.
exactly,
If you're a
exactly
natural blonde or a boxed blonde,
right,
you still have to bend over backwards, in
exactly,
order to show that you're more than, oh,
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
All the things,
I really think that because we have to close, who would think that we've been talking for as long as we've been talking?
How long has it been?
Almost 30 minutes.
No, it's
but we need to continue this conversation. We might have a part 2 of it, because we've only touched on the surface. And one of the things that's true to our brand is that we don't hide things and we don't sugarcoat things. So I think that there's still a lot unsaid about this that that would be provocative and worth talking about.
I think so too. So if you are listening to us on our podcast platform, please go on over to YouTube and leave a comment. What areas would you like to see us deep dive on? And, you know, if we don't have particular experience or expertise, we'll try to find a friend who could bring that perspective to our podcast. Sure. And if you're listening to us, watching us on YouTube, just go on, leave a comment. How do you feel about this topic? How do you feel about us talking about this topic?
The nerve of them. Look at them.
The nerve. Anyway, all right, Les, take us out.
Thank you for listening, and stay tuned for more conversation like this. Don't forget to press like and subscribe and hit those notifications. And this has been another episode of Black Boomer Besties from Brooklyn.
Brooklyn.